Hi, I'm Miss Brenda, and welcome to Fun Friday. Our book today is entitled New Pet. Blastoff Boy woke up so early that there were only 2 suns in the sky. He opened his sleep pod and floated down to breakfast. "Good morning, Blastoff Boy," Mrs. Glorp said as she served the family's breakfast capsules. "How many breakfast pills would you like this morning?" "Only 17, please. I'm not that hungry." Mr. Glorp burst into the room with Blippi, his daughter. "We have a big surprise for you," he said happily. "Hooray," said Blippi. "A big surprise." Blastoff Boy was startled as a giant slobbering green monster tackled him and stood on his chest, licking his face. "Well, what is this?" cried Blastoff Boy. "Why, your new pet Schloppo, of course." Mr. Glorp laughed. "I named him Twinkles," Blippi said. "We thought you'd like a little pet," said Mr. Glorp. The big green monster put Blastoff Boy's head in his mouth. "Say, he's taken quite a liking to you," said Mr. Glorp. Then Twinkles chewed on Blastoff Boy's leg. "Are you sure he's not trying to eat me?" Blastoff Boy asked, covered in alien pet drool. He wished he could have brought his dog, Scooter, with him to outer space. Now there was a pet. "Blorp, I think Scooter is still a little afraid of you," said Mr. Smith. "He doesn't like new people," said Mrs. Smith. Blorp tried to coax the dog out from under the sofa where he'd been since Blorp had arrived. "Yes, Blorp," said Mr. Smith. "Give him a little time to get used to you." "The last time Scooter hid under the couch this long," said Lenny, "was the 4th of July. Blorp had never had a pet, and he wanted to play with Scooter, something awful. This dog was no Schloppo, of course, but he was still kind of cute. "Very well," said Blorp. "I have to go to school anyway. Come on, Lenny." Later that day, on his way home from school, Blorp had a funny feeling that he was being followed. He turned around, and sure enough, he was. A baby hippopotamus stood there smiling at him. Well, he thought it was smiling. "Hello," Blorp said as he pet it. "Are you lost?" The hippo blinked his eyes and swished his little tail. "Would you like to come home with me, little fellow?" The hippo's tail swished faster. Blorp was so excited, this could be his new pet. Then he remembered Scooter. Maybe Scooter would be afraid or even jealous of Blinky, as Blorp had decided to call the pet hippo. "I'll have to sneak you into the house," he told Blinky. "You'll have to hide in my room until I can figure out what to do." Blinky liked that and swished his tail some more. Blastoff Boy decided to bring Twinkles to school for show and tell. He stood in front of the class with Twinkles on a leash. "Sit," Blastoff Boy said sternly to him. Twinkles licked Blastoff Boy's face. The class giggled. "Now, Twinkles, roll over," he commanded. Twinkles sat on his hind legs and drooled. The class laughed some more. More embarrassed than ever, Blastoff Boy tried just one more time. "Speak," he cried. Twinkles put Blastoff Boy's head in his mouth. All the children roared with laughter, except for Blastoff Boy. "You sure have a funny pet," Blastoff Boy's friends Buzz and Bo said. "Yeah," he cried, "real funny." Blastoff Boy had never been so humiliated in his life. He scolded Twinkles and then tied his leash to the flagpole outside the school. Twinkles howled and cried, but Blastoff Boy ignored him. Blastoff Boy was mad. Blorp quietly pushed Blinky through the back door of the Smith's house and guided him up the stairs to his room. He was so happy to finally have his own pet. He tried to play catch with him, but Blinky ate the ball. He ate Blorp's pillow, his lamp, and then his bed. Blorp thought that maybe his new pet was a little hungry. He fed Blinky all the food in the kitchen, but he was still hungry. So Blorp fed him everything else in the kitchen. The table, the chairs, the oven, and even the kitchen sink. Then Blinky fell asleep. After school, Blastoff Boy spent the rest of the day trying to teach his new pet to fetch, roll over, and sit. When Blippi came home and saw this, she asked, "Why are you trying to teach Twinkles how to do these things?" He didn't quite know why, but he knew what a good pet was supposed to do. "Because" was the only answer he could come up with. Unfortunately, Twinkles had no interest in learning how to fetch, roll over, or sit. He was too busy trying to lick Blastoff Boy's face or put his head in his mouth. Blastoff Boy still couldn't figure out if this meant Twinkles liked him or was just hungry. The next day at school, Blorp pleaded with Mrs. Pomerantz to believe that his pet had eaten his chemistry homework. "Blorp, I know you're new here," she said, "but that is the oldest excuse on the planet." Then Blinky, who must have missed Blorp very much, burst into the classroom and ate everyone else's homework too. Blorp petted Blinky, and Blinky wagged his little tail. He was happy to see Blorp. "It's okay," Blorp called. "You don't have to be afraid of him. This is just my new pet, Blinky." The class slowly peeked out from their hiding places under their desks. "See," said Blorp, "he won't bite you. He was just a little hungry, that's all." The class petted Blinky's wide nose. He liked that very much. Mrs. Pomerantz told the class all about baby hippos, where they lived, what they liked to eat, what they liked to do, and how much they needed their mothers. She also told the class that she had read in the previous day's newspaper about a baby hippo that had escaped from the zoo. "Maybe it was a different baby hippo," Blorp said, to her not wanting to give up his new pet. "Well, Blorp," she said, "do you think Blinky would be happier living with you, eating your homework, or back in the zoo where he can be with his mother?" Mrs. Pomerantz called the Smiths and the zoo officials while the class said their goodbyes to Blinky the hippopotamus. After school, Blorp went to the city zoo with the Smiths to visit Blinky. There he was, happily splashing about with his family in the cool green water. When Blinky saw Blorp, he blinked and swished his little tail. Blorp realized that his room was no place for a hippo, but that didn't make him miss Blinky any less. "I think I know where everything in my kitchen went," said Mrs. Smith. "See, Mom," said Lenny, "I told you it wasn't me." When Blorp got home, he sat alone and thought about how much he missed his big gray friend. Blorp was sad. Scooter tentatively peeked out from under the couch. Then he jumped up and licked Blorp's face. That was it. Blastoff Boy couldn't stand it any longer. Twinkle's howling was keeping everyone awake. He went outside to shut him up. "Brah, brah," Twinkles howled. The sound seemed familiar to Blastoff Boy. It was sort of like the sound that his dog Scooter made when he was sad. Twinkles hollered sadly some more, but his eyes lit up when he saw Blastoff Boy and he drooled happily. "What is it, Twinkles? What's the matter?" Blastoff Boy asked him. The Schlappo snuzzled up next to him, and Blastoff Boy gave him a little cuddle. There they sat together, a boy and his Schlappo, looking at the stars and moons. Okay, Blastoff Boy thought, so he can't fetch, roll over, or sit on command, but Twinkles is still a good pet anyway. He gave his pet another hug, and Twinkles gently put Blastoff Boy's head in his mouth. I hope you enjoyed our story today, and if you did, that you'll share it with your family and friends. And remember, when you support the Children's Hope Foundation, you make it possible for children to receive the specialized medical care that they so desperately need. Have a good week and see you next Friday.